değerli katılımcılar.
Distinguished participants, I greet you on behalf of TÜSİAD Board with love and respect. This is the 5th meeting of our Meetup Activities series, and I'm very happy to be with you. In order to increase our interaction with external ecosystems, as of December 2019, we have implemented these meetings. On the one hand, we're trying to bring together entrepreneurs from different ecosystems on different levels. We want to bring them together with TÜSİAD members and increase bilateral dialogue. On the other hand, we want to show what sort of opportunities these places offer startups. Within this framework, after Silicon Valley, Berlin, New York, and Paris, we are going to put on the table the London ecosystem. As TÜSİAD, we give great importance to reinforcing our relations between United Kingdom and Turkey, economic and political. Within this framework, TÜSİAD Global Relations and EU Roundtable is where TÜSİAD UK Working Group is working since 2015. With their contribution, we aim to increase bilateral trade and investments. On the other hand, we collaborate with TÜSİAD London office so that we can increase our corporate relations and we can coordinate systematically the activities geared towards this country. Distinguished participants, 2021 has been a year where investments have increased in the ecosystems. Startup Watch 2021 report has said that investment round-wise and investment unit-wise, it's been a record. In Turkey, angel and VC stages, 294 investment tours, $1,552 million worth of investment has been made, an increase of 948% compared with previous year, and a growth by 47% as far as units are concerned. With the popularity of the gaming sector, 52 investment rounds and $265 million worth of favorite sector. Valuations increased by 80% at the seed stage. 4 out of 10 entrepreneurships were of the gaming industry. We believe this will continue to be the case. Investments about $10 million have been companies, 50% more of those, more than 50% of those have been working abroad, or at least they've been receiving investment from abroad. So this concretely puts forth their impact on growth. When we look from foreign investment side, in 2021, 60 different foreign investors have invested in entrepreneurships in Turkey. In 2021, Turkey is one of the 10 European countries that has been invested in, and Istanbul ranks 13th as the city that has received the highest investment. Our ecosystem is developing, entrepreneurship culture is becoming more widespread, and number of visionary entrepreneurs is increasing by day. However, we need investment amounts to increase equally. The importance of funds become important. 18 new funds have been funded, but we need more funds and more investment. When we look at it globally, only this year, 390 new unicorns have been born, and we need to increase our share in the pie. And how we can get more unicorns out of our system, how we can open up the way for entrepreneurships, and how we can support them, we should be considering these more. Distinguished participants, today, London is where we're going to go. For entrepreneurs and investors, London has been a center of attraction. When we look at global lists in 2021, it ranks first in Europe. In the world, it ranks 5th. If you look at the sectoral vertical in fintech and foodtech, they rank 3rd in the world. In marketing and sales, they are number 4 in the world, and 4,878 startups they're hosting in London. 1 out of 4 entrepreneurships is fintech, 1 out of 5 is foodtech, and 1 out of 9 startups are in sales and marketing. Investment, technology, and global ecosystem network that they present to startups. With those, no doubt, London will continue to attract talent in the upcoming period. Today, in this context, we have very valuable speakers: how to set up a business in London, investment processes, corporate companies, and startup collaboration experiences will be discussed, and similarities and differences between the two systems will be put forth. Put in another way, we're going to take a photo of the London ecosystem. We want this panel to be as interactive as possible. The last 30 minutes of the meeting will be allocated to questions and comments. While I conclude, I would like to thank dear TÜSİAD team and Cansel Başaran Symes who have worked for this meeting. The program has high added value, hopefully. Now, I leave the word over to UK TÜSİAD Network President Kazım Köseoğlu. Thank you. İrem Hanım, as the president of TÜSİAD UK Network, I'm very happy to be in the London Meetup meeting. Today, I'm going to be doing moderation. We have 4 valuable guests, and with them, why do successful startups prefer London? How are penetration into market investment processes shaped? The way they do business and collaboration with traditional companies' culture, how different is it in the UK from Turkey? The outputs will be beneficial for startups who plan to open up to the rest of the world. I'm sure it will be beneficial for them. Now, all panelists to the screen, please. Erdem Yurdanur, Ömer Görgülü, Şahin Çağlayan, and Turancan Salur. With your permission, first, I'd like to say welcome to all of you. Thank you for participating in this activity on behalf of TÜSİAD. I would like to say thank you. Erdem, I'll start with you. Maçkolik Masomo. You have founded many successful startups. You also have an angel investor identity in this ecosystem. And you've been working out of London for years. Why did you choose London as a center? How is London entrepreneurship ecosystem? Why were you attracted? Hello, everyone, first of all. I came to London in 2013, and of course, it was not because of business initially. And before I came, because of a project we were doing, I had gone to many countries and mostly to London. I had people I knew here. So as a city, I loved London very much. The real question is, why did I get out of Turkey? I think it should be that. We decided to come here 2010, 2011 as a family, 2 years of preparation. And we came in July 2013. It's 9 years almost. The biggest reason, personally, for me, is political, economic, cultural. I saw a degeneration in many aspects in Turkey, and intellectually, I thought I was really weakening. We were always talking about the same things, discussing the same things in business, and we have one life. I wanted to live it with different people, different cultures. That was reason number one, the reason I wanted to go abroad. But why London? Because my businesses were still in Turkey. I had not sold Maçkolik yet, and managing Maçkolik from here was easy because it was an online business, so it didn't matter where we were. But if I had to come, it was 3.5 hours of flight. If I had relocated to Silicon Valley in San Francisco, it's an 11-hour difference. It wasn't suitable. So London, with its proximity to Turkey, it's good. There are Turks here culturally, you know. At the same time, it's a very good window opening to the rest of the world. I'm from Uşak, and doing business in Uşak, doing business in Istanbul, same differences for doing business in Istanbul and doing business in London. When you're doing business in Turkey, you mostly think in terms of Turkey, Maçkolik even. I could have gone global earlier, but we always kept insisting on doing something for the Turkish people. But as mindset, of course, while you're in Turkey, you always think of Turkey. But when you live in London, conversely, with US leading the way, you start thinking the entire world. London is very cosmopolitan in that respect. The neighborhood that I live in, close to the center, there are very few English people, apart from those people from all over the world are here, Indians, Greeks, Italian. The school that our children go to have students from 57 countries. Therefore, this cultural wealth is impacting every area of your life, also on the business world. So you have an idea about how to do business anywhere in the world. Your network expands. So, and I always said this when I held seminars, I think the biggest capital of the entrepreneur is the network. So London, I guess, is among the top 3 in the world. That's the reason I came to London. Thank you very much. Ömer, I'll turn to you now. Twin science and robotics. What do you do? What is your innovation? How do you intend to grow? Sure. Our story starts from reverse. When you look at 99% of the companies, they get set up, they make money, and then after a certain level, foundations, associations are set up in order to give back to society and to reinvest in society in order to prevent that degeneration. Our story is completely the other way around. We were a social responsibility project, 4 years only, but our story goes back to 12 years ago. We had started to organize science seminars in Anatolia. We are wandering around Anatolia, more than 20,000 children. We tried to make children love science. By the time we came to 2017, we thought, how can we spread this around the world to make this impact sustainable? We set up we had produced 2 products. One is Skill Gap. Oxford, World Economic Forum, different institutes have researched and seen that professions are changing, skills and competencies are not really compatible with the current educational system. So on the primary school students, how we can equip them with 21st century skills, we asked. But in the second part, many global problems are around climate crisis, gender inequality, regional development problems. The children will have the skills, but how to use those in order to build a better world. So in all of our contents, educational contents, we have UN's Millennial Development Goals. We merge with that content Lego compatible robotic coding sets and digital educational applications are how we reach the students, we may say. Thank you very much. Second question while you're here. What really determined, what was the determining decisive factor in opening up to London? For Twin, of course, 2 things came into the foreground. One is that network, that international network. When you look at the industry, just like masters, you think of the US at the primary education system. UK is still an important center. They have the largest educational fairs in the world. So in 2018, we had Turkey-focused sales, but we kept coming and going to UK. We participated in education fairs. We saw if we can make it in the UK, it will be better to spread around the world, which is coming to fruition. We are working closely with the Foreign Trade Ministry of UK. We're in 35 countries. Most of these are through networks in the UK. So sectorally, in fact, this is a benchmark point. So that was the first factor. The second one, of course, we're thinking long term. For 200 years now, there's been an education system in the world designed for the Industrial Revolution, but it's no longer sufficient. How to introduce a new perspective, how to change that. It's a long-term journey which requires financing. But in the UK ecosystem, access to finance is more and easier. So this was the second reason we chose what we had available financially, access to finance. Great. Şahin, let me get back to you from your entrepreneurship journey and Faraday.
Tabii, çok teşekkürler. Aslında Ömer'in verdiği giriş bizim için de geçerli. Biz de 3 YGA mezunu olarak şirketimizi kurduk.
The example given by Ömer is also valid for us. We also started with similar ideas, but we actually had a different approach. We are also focusing on SDGs, but from sustainability perspective. Since 2017, we have an entity for holdings for the public sector. We are developing IoT-based and artificial intelligence-based infrastructure. As a result of this, as an output or added value, let's say you have hundreds and thousands of chains, and you may be a hospital, you may be involved in logistics sector, you may have a lot of facilities, you may be a Fortune 500 company, or you may be the manufacturing industry. So in order to enhance the efficiency of all these facilities, we are providing you analytical services. This is to reduce the operational expenses of companies. Net zero is a target for many companies, as you know, for 2030, for 2050. So this platform actually helps companies to reach those targets in an easier manner. As you know, it's not only specific to Turkey, but on a global scale, utility costs are on the rise and regulations are also on the rise. So we started receiving more and more requests and demands, I should say. Currently, where we are is that Faraday is at the level of funding. We have clients in 15 countries. We have approximately a team of 60 people. And in the UK, we have a subsidy, and quite recently we have moved our headquarters to the UK. I used to come and go, but for the last 6 months I moved to London, and I'm now based in London for the last 6 months. As Ömer mentioned, for larger funding, in order to have access to a larger eco point, establishing a global team in order to have presence in various countries, you need to make significant investments. So in order to have a European origin and in order to have more access to the British VCs, we wanted to make this move. If you have further questions, you're most welcome. Another question to follow this. Based on your experience, do you think that it's easier to start with your entrepreneurial moves in Turkey or in the UK? Well, it depends. It's specific to us. It was not easy for us to move it to the UK. We were confronted with some administrative and taxation challenges, because if you have individual investors or corporate enterprises, if you move headquarters, there may be different taxation process valid here, so it's not an easy thing. We went through a challenging period of 1 year, but then again, we came up with the optimum scenario. As for entrepreneurs that will open up to the global arena, I would say that this is out of scope. I mean, it's not a debate whether they should go global or not. Instead, they should follow a certain roadmap. For Turkish entrepreneurs, I would say that Turkey is a good lab, but for the opening up process, they should actually not wait until they reach medium level. In order not to encounter problems at a later stage, you may start from day one on a global scale and take strategic steps so that you don't do it from the reverse side afterwards. We should come to agree that funds and R&D funds and techno parks, techno camps, techno cities, you're offered many incentives like tax incentives, etc. Those are also advantages. You may benefit from those. You may benefit from those incentives and then find a way to go global. This is actually already obvious. Best practices are set. So you may have your headquarters overseas, and then you may have your R&D center in Turkey, so that you have access to great talent in Turkey. You may develop your technology here and have your R&D in Turkey. So we also try to do this optimization. Specific to us, I would say, since we are in a B2B business, local presence is key. Wherever you're selling from is also important. As a Turkish company, if you are selling an artificial intelligence product or an IoT to Germany or to other European countries, that's not an easy thing. You will come to agree. But as a British company, you may easily sell to Asia Pacific, to the US, to different parts of Europe, or whenever you are to find yourself a partner, you go through different stages rather fast. The second dimension of that is as follows. For instance, we spent a year to close the ticket size. We put 1 year's effort in that. However, with a Zoom call of half an hour, you can get 500,000 tickets. I suppose you can hear me all right, asked the gentleman. So generally, there is an optimization, but then again, it's no longer a question or a choice. I mean, should we go global or not? That's not an optional thing. Why is the UK important? Especially when we consider companies like ourselves, SDG, PropTech, British funds and institutions are leading the way. When you take a look at the analysis, you also mentioned that already Germany, France, Italy, all the startup funding, all three of them make up to the same level as as that of UK. In this geography, I would say this is one of the most acceptable places. Language, of course, was another reason to select the UK. Turkey-UK relationship, commercial relationship is at a good level. İrem mentioned that at the beginning, and there are many accelerators that you may get approval. So all of that play an important role, and they lead the way to Turkey. Turancan, now over to you. Getir is one of the biggest success stories of the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Turkey, and you've been involved in this process since from the beginning, and you are now the director for overseas operations. Would you first start with the explanation why you decided to go to the UK and how you developed your operations in the UK for the last year? I would first of all like to thank you for the invitation. The process, the opening up process for Getir is initiated in the UK. I moved to London a year ago, and since from day one, Getir wanted to be an international brand. So where should we start? We should start from London. We did not even have any other option. Everyone thought about London, and then all the indicators show that London was the right destination to go. All businesses, nearly all businesses, see London as an opening door to the rest of the world. Language is an important factor when you are starting a business. Being able to read the laws, being able to communicate rather than via a translator is a big advantage. When you start a business here, Italian, Polish, French, You see people from all over the world at your company, and after London, we opened up representative offices in 6 different countries, and we actually sent people over to those countries from here. So the talent pool that you'd like to have access to is a big advantage. So if a company succeeds in London, then may succeed in all other parts of the world. That's what people think. Additionally, we also so that both for consumers and the government, the state, this is a welcoming country. You never feel like a foreigner. People are always open to new technologies, local authorities, government. They proactively communicate with you to help you, to assist you. And this, of course, makes the business environment an eligible one and more efficient one. So for the last year or so, I have seen many reasons for the question why it was a good idea to come to London. So once you see that you see traction in your business, an international company or a consumer or an investor says that if one succeeds here, one will succeed anywhere. That is essential for investment and entrepreneurial move. Let me ask my second question. In 8 countries and in tens of cities, you are active. What is the growth target for 2022 for your company? After Turkey, we are present in 8 countries, including the US, and our target in 2022 is we have opened up to large markets. We are present in large entities. We would like to go to a couple of more cities. Even if we opened up to these markets, it's a huge market. So for Paris, for Birmingham, for Manchester, for Milan, for London, for all these cities, we still have a significant way to go. So hopefully 2022 will be the year during which we will complete that. We would like to take Getir to many more consumers. We would like to ensure that Getir is indispensable for the urban life. I need something quickly, or I feel like having something, or I don't want to spend time shopping for home. So the first thing that should come to your mind should be Getir. Like when you're bored, you automatically go check what's on Netflix or Spotify. So the same rule should apply to the delivery services that we offer. Of course, it's not going to be achieved maybe in a couple of months, but by being more widespread and developing services, we would like to have this impact uh, on the perception. So after having tried the entrepreneurial ecosystem in both countries, what do you think are the differences? And when you evaluate the process as an investor, what would you advise to the companies who would like to attract more investment? Entrepreneurship in recent years, uh, entrepreneurship has started to accelerate. Entrepreneurship has started to be perceived as the most prestigious business line. This actually is creating some sort of an inflation. We see we see so many enterprises who are not necessarily entrepreneurial entities, but they just go knock on the doors of the investors to ask for money. I mean, there are so many people trying to do that. For instance, I'm an angel investor and I receive at least 2, 3 ideas a day. That means thousands of ideas a year, and it's so difficult for me to make a selection. And again, over LinkedIn, I received so many messages, people asking me whether I will invest in their ideas. If I allocate a couple of hours a day, analyze them all, and maybe have talks or chats with them, that's impossible as a workload. I think investment in entrepreneurial moves should be more institutional. So VCs are of great help. Boğaziçi, Spherex, and 202. I'm an MP on all these platforms, and I also am part of Endeavor as an LP. So what do these bring to me as an investor? The evaluation of startups that I could do, maybe this way, I'm evaluating 50 times more 50 times more entrepreneurs, and I also get to hear the perspective of many more people. So if one is willing to invest in a startup, this is the way to go. I think this is more trustworthy and this is more safe. Secondly, my area is technology. I invest heavily on technology. I myself am a computer engineer by background. I've been doing this for the last 30 years. I myself am a startup or an entrepreneur. So I understand entrepreneurs much better than others. But then again, I see that there are many investors who do not get the support of anyone with some fancy words and presentations. They may go, they may invest, and then they may lose their money. Is the following drawback. Startups are seen as places where money may be lost. So the biggest two big differences between the UK and Turkey. When compared with the UK, the number of investors in Turkey is less than the ones in the UK. So if there are investments which are poorly made in bad ideas, then the market shrinks. I mean, in the um, medium term and in the short term, I think this is the biggest advantage. In the long term, nothing is foreseeable. That's the biggest handicap of Turkish economy. Instability, exchange rate starts from 7.3 up to 10, and from 10 goes beyond 13, 14. So how are you going to do business? But in the UK, there is this stability at least. So while doing business here, maybe there was some sort of ambiguity during the Brexit process, but nowadays it's more stable. The biggest problem here is that Boris Johnson held a party at his apartment during the COVID period. I think this is the biggest difference here around in the UK. If a company would like to invest in the UK, then they should first check the VCs based here. There is also an inflation of VCs. Who are the founders of these VCs, and whether they will be able to select the right startup. I strongly agree with you. Ömer, over to you now. Uh, which institutional companies do you work with? What do you think is the difference in business style when you compare Turkey and the UK? Actually, so far we have worked with 50 plus institutional or corporate companies, TAV Airports, BSH, Aviap, Eczacıbaşı. There are so many companies I can mention. So the international model of ours was born in Turkey. So we did not import the model from overseas. Just on the contrary, we exported it. Many corporate companies in Turkey are having this strategy partnership with us. So what was the business model like? Today, as we take a look at the schools, we see that to an extent of 80%, schools lack necessary materials because they don't have the budget or they have misuse of the budget. But then again, these children need such products in order to prepare themselves for the future. So giving back to the society, investing in, again, to the society, it may be in the form of social responsibility or human resources. So these corporate companies and disadvantages groups, we brought them together and we established a bridge, so to say. And for some, if I'm to give a specific example, Ford Motor Company and Ford Otosan developed developed a special product for the engineers were involved as well, and then they attended sessions with children, and thus they were able to take this to students attending school at disadvantageous regions. This actually fed in our impact. So this model that we established with 50 plus companies, when we brought it to the UK, we're doing this with Google, Facebook, and Rolls-Royce in the UK, in Japan. This model is taken from Turkey and taken to other parts of the world.
In Turkey, we're used to crises, especially on the corporation and startup side. We can say adaptation is higher, more agile. In the international part, the processes are a bit longer. Maybe, of course, it's healthier and sustainable when it's longer. That's the plus side. But the differences between the two, in one, the processes are a bit longer. They take time to let certain things settle. Whereas in Turkey, because of flexibility, we can act fast. In fact, it's very positive and successful model. Thank you very much. Şahin, going back to you again, how is your collaboration with corporations? In which channels do you use in London? Which channels do corporations use in London to reach startups? And collaboration investment processes, good that we've done, or do you say, I wish I had done that before? When opening globally, when we look at the methods used, local plus global. In Turkey, selling to corporations from IKEA to Zara, PepsiCo, Vodafone, global Fortune 500 companies selling to them and then going to their branches in the global was a working model for us. That's what we've done. Oracle and Cisco, global system integrators, technology provider companies. We had partnerships with them, which was good leverage for us. In Turkey, first we did certain cases, and then we went to the account managers in the global in different business and sector verticals. They carried us to their customers in that manner. So that model is another one we have used. Of course, direct sales, without direct sales, you cannot depend on your partners totally. We saw that we had to establish a direct sales channel as well. But there was a cultural barrier. For instance, with English customers, while progressing, you may be challenged as a Turk. This may be cultural reasons, maybe because of your accent in English. So as global sales director, we hired an English colleague. That was a good action. As a best practice, of course, this may not work in every company. There are many failure stories, but for us, it was good. That colleague has to adapt himself to our culture. It's going well for the moment. We can create that trust much faster, I can say. Of course, throughout COVID, these face-to-face meetings, we couldn't have those in the UK either. They're just starting again. So again, we used online channels to do that. This was also done in Turkey and globally. These processes facilitated B2B sales cycles. Being in the UK or going through UK, there are advantages to that. Big corporations may have clients, partners. The culture of working with startups is more established. There's a big transformation in Turkey. Even in the last 3 years, I think that perspective has developed. For instance, there, TÜSİAD brought together startups with vertical businesses. Startup-focused tenders are more widespread. Again, corporations do certain purchasing from startups. They're committed to that. Budgets are much larger, of course. By putting in the same effort, we could sell it 3 to 4 times service-wise. An important thing for startups, for instance, in Turkey, corporations don't like saying no. Even if they're not going to be working with you, they may just drag you along because of different reasons, maybe cultural, different strategic reasons. But abroad, and not just UK, really, in Europe as well, they can, if they're not going to use it, they can easily say no to you. In my opinion, this is an indispensable opportunity for startups because a limited capacity, limited funds, limited breadth, focusing on the right companies is very important. This is what I can say. And last question that you asked, if I remember correctly, I wish I had done this before, example. Several years ago, we could have gone abroad several years ago. When we did, COVID broke out. The beginning of 2020, we set up the company in the UK, and then COVID came right after it. So that was a bit unfortunate, I may say, but later on, we transformed that into an opportunity. I wish in 2017, 18, after connecting with the big companies and holdings in Turkey, after doing challenging projects in Turkey, if you can sell to corporations, you can do it easier abroad because technology level is much better and sales processes are more structured abroad. They are more straightforward. If we had come here a couple of years ago, it would have been better. As of first round, we included foreign investors. In this first seed investment, we had an American investor, then an English real estate fund, Gold Eckert. In this round, fully English investors. 3 English investors were about to close. And Eden Base and Gökçe are among those listening to us right now. Turkish entrepreneurs in the UK. He has worked a lot to build a bridge. Hopefully, Gökçe will talk in another event. Now we have more of a global perspective. The team has to go global as well. When you're setting up an office in the UK, the culture has to be transformed. The way everything is in English now. What we write, what we speak, little by little. We're trying to hire people working in other countries. We started from the Middle East. Being in England showed us that this global transformation was compulsory. It's a wake-up call. Sometimes we may be in our comfort zone in Turkey, but global operation requires a mindset transformation. What would I have done differently? Maybe we could have been more courageous and we could have spent more time abroad. And that, of course, requires some funds. There are several perspectives to it, but it seems like if we could have done that. Okay, thank you. Goldacre is an investment group that I know very well. Congratulations. Turancan, going back to you. What do we need for more global brands to come out of Turkey to provide new solutions for the world? Departing from the difficulties you have encountered, in which areas do you think entrepreneurs should be supported in Turkey? 2 very important topics. One is financing, ikincisi branding, becoming a brand. How marketing can be done better, mentorship in that regard. Now, I think finance is the most critical. I've been in London for the past 1 year. Many people and companies coming from Turkey without financing can do very well. They act rapidly, they're practical, and provide good services. Acting rapidly is something that is seen rarely in Europe. Okay, there are wonderful services, products, but speed and practicality, they lag behind in that regard. That culture that we're used to in Turkey When you provide good services, it reflects very well because you can act faster than the rest. And naturally, a company from Turkey is in fact a lot more flexible, having overcome many challenges, so their skin is thicker. In the UK, some problems that English companies make a big thing out of seems more standard to us. These are things we have experienced and found a solution to. So many companies and people coming out of Turkey, if they can find the financing, they will be at a great advantage. But the biggest shortage is lack of enough financing in Turkey. There's still a lot of ground to cover there as a country because the entrepreneurial spirit and strength in the services sector. When you go to a restaurant, when you get fast and good service in such a country, we should have a lot more global brands, especially in technology. The most basic thing here is to go on the world stage. Somebody has to give you the money and assume the risk and support you. That's the biggest shortcoming we have in the UK, Western Europe, American, Asia, in many countries. People provide you the financing. They assume the risk because they know that certain numbers of companies there will be big and they will be getting a return on their risk. But that perspective is still not in Turkey. There are significant developments in the past 5-10 years. In fact, Turkey really covered a lot of ground, but there's still ground to cover to come to world standards. Of course, we have to look at the GDP of the country. How much of the GDP is invested in startups and entrepreneurship? I'm sure we're lagging behind. First, financing. Second, branding support. Going out of Turkey, introducing their brand well, and being accepted by the consumer, these companies can become global brands. But that branding seems to be lagging behind in our case. Many other countries in our geography are better. Italian fashion brand, Spanish this, French that. But for instance, there are not many brands that we can associate with our country. And this we have to reinforce. Made in Turkey or service coming from Turkey. It should have an extra value when you say that. Robotics company from Turkey. Hopefully that will happen because a robotic company from UK sounds a lot stronger to the customer, for the customer. But with the right marketing moves, within a couple of years, these are things that can be done. Therefore, we need significant support here, especially countries such as Sweden. In fact, great technology companies, Spotify, IKEA, big innovation in its time. And from smaller countries, significant technological service providers may come. We need a lot more mentoring in this area. Maybe it should start from schools because we, for instance, I'm giving an example, when you look at the food sector, okay, so we have wonderful meals, but when you go abroad, still there are restaurants with other types of Mediterranean food, Greek, Spanish, Italian, they attract masses because the setting is better, ambiance is better. Even though our meals are better, the image, the ambiance around it, the marketing is the missing link. And those who do this well, they become worldwide brands. In Turkey, I think we're still covering a lot of ground in recent years because people see when you have a different approach, the consumer accepts it. If we develop this further, I think many more companies are going to come out of Turkey, and in the international arena, there can be many more Turkish brands. Thank you. Really, Sweden and Israel are very good examples. The value that they create and entrepreneurship. Arda, my last question to you, and then we'll go to Q&A. İrem Hanım in her opening speech said, game in the world in UK and in Turkey has been a growing sector. Many entrepreneurship and investment in this area. How do you see the business of the gaming industry? Also, as an investor living in Turkey, which sectors are you keeping a close eye on in 2022? The gaming sector, I guess, is the most successful one in Turkey as well. Reasons for this is that there are very many successful exits and investments in recent years. What I mean by game is mobile games, not the console or computer games. My interest is on the mobile side because telephones are, in fact, are all game consoles. I'll be repeating the same thing again, but in Turkey, game studio, 2-3 people coming together and establishing a game company. There's an inflation in that regard as well. 2-3 people coming together, they decide on establishing a game company. Done simply, consumed in a very brief period of time. These are very popular in Turkey. We're number one in that regard in the world, but more comprehensive, requiring larger teams, big scenarios, games that will be played over a long period of time. We're not that strong in that regard because developing those kinds of games requires big investments, long-term patience, and we're an impatient country. And patience requires money, of course. But on hyper-casual side, when so many companies emerged, significant competition took shape. Apart from that competition, iPhone telephones, Apple, there's a limitation, IDFA, limiting personal information. Google is going to be doing this soon. Therefore, these game companies, while accepting new users, they need to spend a lot more money. The thing we call the game sector is the money you spend to buy players and the money you make off them. If you can strike a balance, you become successful. But this balance, unfortunately, the expenditure side will be growing and revenue side will be reduced. And in the existing competition, I think smaller companies will be challenged a lot more. Large companies with capital will be at a more advantageous position, I'm thinking. I would like to add one thing, very popular, but there's something I oppose, NFT use in games. Play and win, making money while playing a game. These models are becoming very popular. I think these models are very wrong. And they're wrong to make money, and they're not sustainable models. And especially the game being played to make money, I don't think it's the right thing to do. Children, people play and make money, win money, and then go play it somewhere else, make money, make coin, crypto, and then sell it somewhere else. Game has a very valuable side for the human being: education, excitement, socializing, many plus values. If you put money on top of that, this is something that we complain a lot. Money plays an important part in human relations. But starting it from childhood and putting money on top of everything, ethically, I don't find this right, but economically as well. All games producing different NFTs, different coins, and addressing the same market. Again, some will win and the majority will go bankrupt, I'm thinking. So this NFT and crypto coin games, investors who are going to be investing in those games should be careful. I think that they will be losing money. Your other question, what am I keeping close tabs on? My priority personally is always B2C projects. B2B projects I'm always staying away from because the sales process is very tiring. You have to go and try to sell something to someone. Even if you do, you try again to sell to the second person, third person, you have to prove yourself every time. It's not something I enjoy doing. Therefore, I'll do this. Whoever wants will buy. 25 years ago, when I established Maçkolik, I said, instead of selling $1 million projects, $1 to 1 million people is my motto. And I don't even see the customers. Nobody tells me anything. There is a screen between 1 million people and myself. That's what I'm concentrating on. So for investment, I usually look into B2C. If there are B2B projects, they should have passed a certain stage and become successful. The sales cycle should be over. I try to make sure that they're mobile. To a great extent, I think you have to be on the mobile. Game is always in my area of interest. Game has been around all the time.
Games used to exist since for many years, and they will continue to exist until eternity. So if you find good investors and if you're able to make a good configuration with good money, I will always continue with good projects that make me earn good money, but they have to be at the same time meeting my standards. For instance, I wouldn't go into NFT or Bitcoin. All businesses make data analysis, so I wouldn't even mention that. But then again, it's not going to be in the form of B2B project, but rather B2C. If we come up with projects that may produce data for the society with some monthly fees, for instance, this may be provided. I'm interested in such things. Artificial intelligence is again in my area of focus. We just recently decided to invest in such a business. For instance, the social events or incidents are to be analyzed for the last 40, 50 years, and the patterns are and the indications are analyzed, and those indications are associated with the current development, so that predictions are made, uh, so that predictions may be made about oil prices, about coal prices, or wheat prices. It could provide information to traders. I made an investment in such a product. We'll see how successful it will be. I mean, nearly all of them are technology products. And one final thing, not everything is money. Sometimes there are such businesses that I know I won't be making money, but the social side or with my experience, with my know-how, I sometimes believe that I will be able to contribute to a project which will change many people's lives. So then it is a pleasure to go into such businesses as well. Thank you very much. I have finished my question. Let me invite İrem Hanım. So we may now open up for the Q&A session. Kazım Bey, thank you again. Thank you to all our panelists. Kazım Bey, you were a great moderator. Thanks to all the panelists. So at this point, we have heard from various panelists. Now I'd like to leave the floor to Cansu Hanım, who actually helped us formulate today's webinar, and then we will open it for the Q&A. Cansu Hanım, you have the floor.
Evet. Merhabalar.
Hello.
Öncelikle ben de İrem ve Kazım'ın liderliğinde
I also would like to thank İrem and Kazım, who led the way, as well as the team at TÜSİAD. Hasan Tunca is our London office director. I also would like to thank him as well. Actually, we have heard quite valuable comments. Erdem, Ömer, Şahin, Turancan, I would like to thank everyone. I also listened to what has been said. These are all valuable comments made. As I think about the past, I say it was such a great idea. I was a president of TÜSİAD, and we had then made the initial steps to start the roundtable, entrepreneurship roundtable. And TÜSİAD is an association built by entrepreneurs, so we had discussed whether that was necessary. But then again, our aim was to come together with the next generation entrepreneurs, to bring together entrepreneurs of the next generation and TÜSİAD. And then my successors developed this further on and established links and networks in other countries. And we are doing great things. I really attach importance to the following: successful entrepreneurs of Turkey opening up to the rest of the world, coming together with the rest of the world and developing further their networks. This is so valuable because this is a gap. This is a gap for older generations. I had a chance to work in other countries throughout my career, and I always was envious of the diaspora supporting one another. When Bosphorus initiative was suggested to me after TÜSİAD, the first thing was to invite the entrepreneurs of Berlin and establish this network. The same thing, I actually gave support to the UK as well. We really were nurtured by this. I'd like to make a call out. Everyone who participates to today's meeting, please spend an effort to extend our network further. I'm sure there are many more entrepreneurs and startups that we couldn't get hold of. We actually did our best to invite everyone we had knowledge about, but please make use of your own contacts and share those with our colleagues at TÜSİAD. I'm sure our TÜSİAD colleagues will be open to further participants of the network. As Erdem suggested, I really agree with what he said. I am one of the founders of Endeavor as well. We are celebrating our 15th anniversary this year. Everyone thinks that all young people think that I'm an investor. But then again, I have never been an individual investor because I couldn't dare. I mean, even if my background was related to figures and numbers, I always was to deal with numbers. But then again, I always believe in the consultants, advisors, scale experience was the team I really confided in last year. This is very important. Thank you very much. UK is very important. One final thing I'd like to say about the UK. Throughout my life, I worked in European countries as well, but I'm always an admirer of the agility in the UK. Entrepreneurs love agility, and that's why UK is an agile country with the appropriate environment. Thank you very much for your contribution. I'm not going to steal any more time from the Q&A session. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Müsaadenizle İrem Hanım sen
İrem Hanım, would you like to take the lead?
başla istiyorsan sonra ben de ilerleyebilirim.
If you like, you may take the lead and then I may continue. Okay. Burak Yaman has a question. Let me read that question. I've been living in London for more than a year, and I am wondering about your experience. Şahin and Turancan mentioned as well, when it comes to the sales cycle of B2B sales process, this is longer than we are used to. So do you have specific growth hacking methods? I think this is specific to Şahin and Turancan, but then again, other panelists of ours may answer as well.
Ben bir şeyde bulunabilirim.
Yeah, I may make
Bir satış yapmıyoruz
insights. We are not making any B2B sales at Getir, but then again, the closest activity we have is we rent warehouses. For instance, it takes you a couple of days to rent a warehouse in Turkey, but 2 to 3 months. It takes 2 to 3 months in the UK. We actually try to push it to a couple of weeks. I think we're the company that rent warehouses fastest in the UK. I think it takes more time to respond to requests. But then again, we run after people. We give a call on a daily basis. We have a great team of colleagues composed of Turks and people who know the business world. So we have this street marketing. We somehow bug the third parties, but we don't bug them too much. When you do that in the UK, you see that when compared with your competitors, when you compare yourself with the competitors, you gain more momentum because certain things advance rather slow. So a little push is always helpful, but when you push too much, then that may turn things upside down. We also went through that as well. But for people who come to the UK, that's a different culture that we are not used to because certain things actually have a slow pace. I also would like to make an additional comment specific to our business, I should say. We start by collecting data from facilities in order to analyze. For instance, in Turkey, the biggest barrier for us was the current infrastructure. The current infrastructure is not ready for that, so that takes more initial investment cost, and that would prolong the process for the realization of the project. But when it comes to the UK or Europe, maybe they are like 5 to 10 years more advanced sensor network, as well as meters, etc. They are easier to track. So certain processes have accelerated, but then again, structural or structured advancement or regulative perspective that's in place. That's actually the perspective in general in Europe. The most of the entrepreneurs in China and in the US reach such high volumes because of this reason. But then again, you adopt yourself somehow. You go find yourselves partners. You learn about the culture there in order to overcome those challenges. We're trying new models, especially B2B software, software business. People would know free trial, premium. So by forming a fund for the sales cycle, you may spend less effort and you may enable higher conversion rates. We are making a couple of trials. We have not received concrete results yet, but we are giving it a try and we are working on it so that we adopt ourselves to the sales culture, B2B sales culture.
Çok teşekkürler.
Thank you very much.
Zeynep Hanım bağlayabilirsek Zeynep Öztek
Zeynep Öztek,
Head of Inward Investment.
she is the head of inward investment. I think she's going to have a question. If we can ensure her connection, we can get that from her.
Okey, o zaman ben ileteyim. Daha şöyle
Okay, let me pass the question over to you. It goes as follows.
destek yeterli oldu mu? Daha fazla
The support that you received at the initial stage, was that support sufficient, especially Twin Sites and Region? It's so great to see these among the participants today. Yeah, we are all three of us received that initial support as a transition. That's like the initial boost being included in the ecosystem is a big advantage. And mentors that have been assigned to the startups knew the sector, knew the domain, and they are like bridges between you, yourself, and the investors. What could be better, you ask? I think after the initial stage, there is a gap after the first 6 months. Maybe it was because of the startup itself. But then again, for the continuity of this, different structures may be established. I think that could be a good idea because startups may be confronted with different challenges after the scale up for the funding round. Different things pop up. So maybe with further support, it may be ensured to be sustainable. That could be the only feedback. I also agree with you, Shahin. We actually had gone over those difficulties with some personal effort, like Department of International Trade people. We got to know some people from the department. Once the initial partnership was established, different doors were opened because there are the IT, the British Undersecretariat for Trade exist in different parts of the world. So potential distributors, potential customers, potential business opportunities are presented to you by these trade offices. Maybe not only at the initial stage as you move to the UK, but afterwards you may also follow a program with the support of those entities. I also am extremely happy with the support that we received. Department of International Trade helped us a lot, both for the warehouse, finding of a warehouse, both from the legal perspective and also networking. They helped us a lot. I'm extremely happy with the support they provided. Of course, Department of International Trade was not the reason, but then again, Turkey was on the red list for the UK. Our vaccines were not recognized. So just imagine we were unable to travel to the UK, and UK became the furthest country, even if the difference was only, or the distance was 3.5 hours. Zeynep Hanım, you also came and joined us. I asked you a question on your behalf. No problem. Thank you very much. I also would like to thank everyone. I'm full of hope seeing everyone here. I will certainly consider the points, and we will try to improve the conditions. Unfortunately, in certain domains, we are unable to change things, just like that red list. But of course, as much as possible in the upcoming process, we will do our best to assist entrepreneurs such as yourself. We try to prioritize your needs. We are also extremely happy to see that as an institution, we have a certain limitation. Of course, business development is not something that we can concretely help, but as much as possible, we do our best to include you in certain networks, bringing you together with other people. We would like to continue with that in the upcoming process, and of course, announcing your achievement could be another contribution, like your name, the name of your company, the achievement of your company, and announcing or publicity about your platforms could be a contribution. Other than that, if you have other things on your mind, we'll do our best to assist you. If we have people in the audience who are willing to make investments in the UK, we will be more than happy to help you. We have a dedicated team at the Consulate General, and we will be more than happy to do so. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Zeynep Hanım, thank you very much. Your contribution is also valuable. With your permission, I'd like to proceed to the next question. This is a question for Twin Science. Nizamettin Sami Harputlu asked this question. For the next round, after investment funds are received, is that a barrier? This is about Twin Science. And then he asked another question about the impact of mass funding platforms. Do you think this has an impact on the ecosystem? Well, we always ensure that our young entrepreneurs are a part of that. We actually started with our investment process through Cedar. there are two crowdfunding platforms. We went for Seeders, and that's how we collected our funding. For instance, Revolut, if I'm not mistaken, made 8 or 9 rounds of investment. As VCs are entering, they also offer investment opportunities to their own investors. So these crowdfunding platforms are helpful to deepen the ecosystem. So we see many examples, leaders and other crowdfunds, how many companies received how much funding, how much support. You're able to see that. So, I mean, as we made a search, we were not at a corporate investment stage then, but we saw that many VCs, in addition to seeders, made extra investments, VC-backed investments, they call this. We also are in communication with venture capital. We have not seen any drawback. Just on the contrary, we saw many advantages. We had 400 investors from 25 different countries, but they were seen as one institutional investor. But the network they opened and the opportunities they offered were quite helpful. So in the future rounds, crowdfunding will be continued by us. That's what we consider uh, for for the startups, as the other startups do in the UK.
Soru da ben sorayım. Hilal Koç Savcı'dan gelmiş. Girişimci ortamındaki pozitiflerden bahsettik. Ancak
We
eksiklikler
talked about the
var.
positivities in the entrepreneurship setting. What are the shortages? What needs to be developed?
Ben biraz bir şey söyleyeyim isterseniz.
I would like to say something.
Ya iş yapma şekillerimiz gerçekten çok farklı aslında. Şimdi
The
ben
way we do business is very different, really.
de daha sonra kurduğum Masamo'yu da
Machkolik and Masamo, I sold those to English companies, and we had 3-round periods, 3-4-year periods, to very corporate companies. The other one is Perform Group, the biggest online sports media company in the world. In fact, first in the pre-round with Machkolik, I was trying to do this, do that, let's do this, let's do that. One of the managers sent me a mail saying, Erdem, slow down.
ben de dönüp direkt tepedeki adama yönlendirdim maili.
And I forwarded the mail to the top person. I said, I cannot be slow. The more I make a profit, at a higher price, I will sell my company. I can't be slowed down, I said. But they were disturbed by my speed, by the way I try to do business. And the thing that I've seen for 9 years is this is the same everywhere. Sometimes you say, how can this country be the most developed one in the world? Most of them, we come together with Turks and talk over drinks. It's one of those things. I guess they have legacies. One is a system's legacy. It is such a system that nobody wants to touch because it's a working system, even if slow. Simple example is taxis. In order to become a taxi driver here, you have to know all streets by heart. You take a test. And there's Uber now. There are other taxis. They don't have to take that test because they find everything with navigation. It's not needed anymore, but black cab drivers still have to take the test because that system has been working for years. So the other legacy is from the imperialist period, money has been flowing into this country. And that there's the ease of that money too. I don't know if others will agree with me. It's no English person does services. Poles do, Czechs do, Slovenians do. Eastern European side of EU, they do the services. Many of the English people do not work in labor-intensive jobs. They're mostly in managerial positions, and they're fine. Things go slow, but it's okay. If they're going to leave at 4:30 p.m. and if there's something urgent, what do? We give up on what we're going to do and we sit down and work. If we work 16 hours a day in Turkey, nobody complains. But here, you cannot make people work 5 more minutes than they have to. And it's a very expensive place, the UK. If you earn in Turkey and spend here, it's impossible. The exchange rate is over 18 TL. A flat rent, working on Google, Facebook, good engineers, good computer engineers, 2-3 years experience. £40,000 gross is what they make. 2,500, 3,000 pounds a month. Here, you cannot really, and they have to live 2-3 people together, or they get married so that the spouse will also bring money into the household. So it was a good question in a way. This is paradise come, just like Istanbul used to be at one point. Come here, it's paradise. Here it's not something I can say. Life is difficult, expensive, there are pluses, minuses. So you have to balance these out. Pluses and the minuses, of course, depend on a personal perspective. Through Ankara Agreement, too many people came over here. And Ankara Agreement ended, as far as I know. More than 20,000 people came, I think, last year. And many of them are highly challenged. They're just living off what they have made, money they have made in Turkey for years. This is how they live off here. Some of them, probably, they obtain citizenship and will go back. So people who are going to come here to live, they have to think twice about living here. Thank you very much, İrem Hanım. We don't have much time left. Last question. Collective House founder Ahmet Bey is with us. I'll continue with his question, particularly apart from US and London. In London, to what extent do you feel the ecosystem? Another question is Berlin-London connection was investigated. The reason we're doing the meetup series is the interaction between the ecosystems, investors, entrepreneurs. One last opinion from them regarding this. Turancan can answer this best. I can say this from the employee side. The talent pool here is permeable in London and Berlin. We see the connection most heavily here. An example, this is what you encounter. In Berlin, you have an employee 4 days of the week, he's there, but he lives in the UK. Somebody in the UK goes to support Germany temporarily. This talent pool is so much in London from different countries. In fact, there's incredible connectivity among them, and there's permeability among them. Therefore, persuading people to move to other countries is easy, or taking the trip is easy. I see a strong connection there. So when starting out in London, we always said London is a gateway to the world, but to Europe as well. With people you're going to hire in London, you may grow in Europe. You need a good Italian or a good Spaniard. They're present in London. There are thousands to choose from in London, qualified, good for the job. And the fact that this is the case opens doors for you because they have their acquaintances in their countries. So London is a great place for that. In fact, we have examples such as 4 years living in the UK, an Italian, a Portuguese. They moved back to their countries because Getir is opening up in Lisbon or Milan. I was intending to go back. Good company, good position, good future. I'm going back to my country. He can take know-how of Getir and we benefit from him, and he's back in his home. There are many examples such as this. So somebody living in London may have lived somewhere else some other time, or the likelihood of living someplace else is strong in the future. So London is a good place to make these connections.
Ben de belki startuplar için
For startups,
hem yatırım hem de hibe olarak
investment and donation wise, I will answer from that perspective. After Brexit,
İngiltere'de kurulmuş, headquarter orada olan IP'yi orada geliştiren şirketlerin
companies with IPs or HQs there, there's been some limitations in their participation in European projects, even though there are ongoing projects. It's not like it used to be. So there's a disadvantage there. We are still actively participating in these projects through Turkey, Horizon 2020, and other projects. We're continuing to take them. In the UK, you may turn this into advantage. What I see is, especially inside the country, there are many incentives to motivate the talent pool. Innovate UK, just like our TÜBİTAK funds, their diversity and depth has increased. In a way, they have transformed it into an advantage. Apart from that, we see from the investor's perspective, investors from abroad, a Dutch company taking an interest in a startup in the UK. I don't think there's a barrier. I don't think there's a drop in there either, because there are many projects that are co-funded. I see this to be the case for my friends and in the ecosystem. So post-Brexit, on the startup funding side, in fact, because there are more talents in the UK, this may even have increased these funding scenarios from abroad. So I would like to add these two dimensions. Thank you. İrem Hanım,
Siz çok emek harcadınız. Sizle kapatalım istiyorsanız. Tam
shall we conclude with you? It's 5:30 p.m.
İngiltere toplantısı olduğu için çok dakika
Because it's a
açmadık
UK meeting, I think we've been very, very punctual in opening and ending. To panelists, to Kazım Bey, and we have had good participation. Unfortunately, we couldn't read all of the questions, but we will privately answer those questions with TÜSİAD Secretariat. We don't know what city we're going to be in next, but work is underway, and your contribution suggestions will make us happy. We hope that entrepreneurship in London will increase and investments will also be reinforced. Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Bye-bye.